Did you know that roughly 30 years ago, Shiraz or Syrah made up just 1% of South Africa's national vineyard? As of 2022, however, it is the 5th most planted cultivar in South Africa and makes up almost 10% of the national vineyard, almost 9,000 hectares. The rather hot and large region of Paarl has taken the lion's share of that Syrah with about 2,000 hectares, but the regions that are really exciting critics around the world are those with a little bit of elevation. Regions like the Polkadry Hills in Stellenbosch, or Cederberg, or the Ceres Plateau. And those last two regions both sit at roughly 1,000 meters above sea level. The relevance of all this is that today's HanDrinksSolo wine info video focuses on another exquisite bottle of wine that demonstrates why aspect and altitude are the magic keys to some of South Africa's most dazzling Syrahs. That wine is the Old Road Wine Company's Pepperwind Syrah 2020, made by winemaker Ryan Puttick. The Old Road Wine Company is owned by the DGB conglomerate. Now, a big corporate wine machine like that can often make vino purists and natural wine geeks boo and hiss. But what DGB have created in the Old Road Wine Company is something really special indeed. They've made it their mission to secure some of the most sought after vineyards in the South African winelands and make the most arresting wines that they possibly can. Now, even if you've never actually tasted their wines, you will no doubt be familiar with their multi-award winning Grand-Mere Old Vine Semillon, which is made with fruit from Franschhoek, with vineyards planted in 1936. Then in 2023, you might also have seen their 12-mile Syrah from the Swartland, which won the Best Syrah Trophy at the 2023 Investec Trophy Wine Show. But while the trophies are lovely, the wines that are exciting me the most are those that are produced with fruit from vineyards located in a special little stretch of vineyards at the bottom end of the Franschhoek Valley, which I call Franschhoek's Southern Rim. As the name suggests, Franschhoek's Southern Rim is a stretch of premium vineyards located at the very southern end of the Franschhoek Valley at elevations of 340 meters above sea level and higher. This little patch of viticultural heaven, which includes the Boerhoek subregion, is home to producers like Boekenhout's, the now world-famous Colline Vineyards, which provide fruit for producers like Damascene and Alheid wines. Then there is also the biodynamic disciples of Haute Espoir and multi-award-winning newcomers Wildeburg, not to mention Craig McNaught's Stony Brook. Now, the Old Road Wine Company has secured 3 vineyards within this zone, one of which produces the fruit for today's Pepperwind Syrah 2020. The Pepperwind Syrah vineyard is nestled with its back against the Skelmshoek outcrop, which is essentially an extension of the Jonkershoek Mountains. This very cool little vineyard faces south-southeast and sits at an altitude of roughly 380 meters above sea level. This is, of course, at the very upper extreme of Dr. Gladstone's supposed Goldilocks altitude zone for premium viticulture. Now, the name the Pepperwind is perhaps a slightly overly cutesy reference to the cold air that comes rushing down off the mountains during the summer months, which, of course, dramatically drops the ambient temperature in the vineyards. Local legend has it that this wind magically carries pepper spice with it and bestows it upon the vineyard, hence the name the Pepperwind. Now, I personally have never met this local legend, but he sounds positively balmy, because Bill Nye will tell you that pepper spice is triggered by rotundones, and rotundones are in turn triggered by low solar radiation and cooler ambient vineyard temperatures, which means that a south-southeast facing slope with low solar radiation and icy winds rushing down on the vineyards will equal buttloads of pepper spice, hence the name Pepperwind. When we get into the glass and give this guy a sniff, well, unsurprisingly, there are hints of white pepper in there. But actually, for me, the main show is a delightfully pure, pristine, clean onslaught of fresh blackberry fruit. It's enormously winsome. And then there are sweeter elements of black plum that come in there, and even some star anise and a little hint of savory olive. And when we take a sip, well, it's here really where the full force of that pure, focused white pepper element is felt. Of course, the black fruit that we smelt on the nose is there, but now the entire affair has been inverted, and that rich white pepper spice really is sitting center stage. Now, wrapped around that spice, there are brighter, juicy elements of red cherry, perhaps even raspberry, and, as mentioned before, those blackberry notes. And as the fruit begins to fade, there is still a very subtle savory olive hint, which really does take all the aforementioned elements and elevate them to the next level. When it comes to examining how the wine was made, well, for starters, we need to know that the vineyard was planted about 20 years ago, all with SH1 Syrah clones. The vineyard is exceedingly low yielding, giving roughly 4 to 6 tons per hectare. As with all the wines in the Old Road Wine Company range, winemaker Ryan Puttick insists on native ferment only, and he ferments 30% of the grapes as whole bunches. He isn't exceedingly gentle with the grapes in the cellar and performs punch downs at least 3 times per day, after which he uses an old school basket press to press off the wine. The wine is then matured in 600-litre older oak barrels for 8 months. Incidentally, that little period of 8 months is quite significant because speaking to some of South Africa's winemakers who work with these incredible rotundone intense vineyard sites will tell you that, anecdotally speaking, they notice a marked reduction in the presence of those rotundones when they allow oak maturation to continue for longer than 9 months. This is why you'll find a lot of those pristine pepper-driven South African Syrahs will have their oak maturation listed as 9 months or less, which is a hell of a lot shorter than some of the bigger old school blockbuster style Shirazes that you might be used to. Okay, so that's all we have time for today, but if you have any questions about rotundones or high altitude vineyards or winemaker Ryan Puttick or the Old Road Wine Company, then leave a comment on the site and I will try and get back to you as soon as possible. Then, if you enjoyed the video, then support us on Patreon to help us make more of this content, and subscribe to the HanDrinksSolo YouTube wine channel, where we publish at least 6 videos each month talking about wine science, wine history, unusual cultivars, and some of the dynamic rising winemaking stars to come out of the unique South African wine vineyards.